Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. In this video, I want to take you through how to cut and sew a bishop collar. This is the jacket I'm going to be using the collar for, and I already have a tutorial on how to sew this jacket available on my channel. If you're interested, you can go ahead and check my channel or check the description box for that tutorial. So the first thing you need to do is to measure the roundness of the neckline you want to attach the bishop collar to. So you want to make sure that you get this right. As you guys can see, I'm measuring the neckline of the bomber jacket. Make sure you jot down the measurements so you won't forget it. I'm going to be doing this on the pattern paper first, so that it will be easy for you guys to see what I'm doing and understand. The fabric I'm going to be using for this collar is the black doll face material you guys can see, and I've gone ahead to iron it and iron stay to it to make sure that it stays firm when I'm working with it. First thing you want to do is divide the pattern paper into two and then mark a straight line across the pattern paper. This is going to be the foundation for the pattern making process. So now you're going to take that neck measurement that you took and divide it by 2. So it's important to note that for any kind of collar that you are doing, the neck roundness has to be small. You can't cut like a V neckline or a wide round neck. You have to do the standard 3 by 3 for the front and 3 by 1 for the back. So I have taken the neck roundness divided by 2, and that's what I marked here. So now what you want to determine next is how wide you want the bishop collar to be. The max for me is 1.1 inch because bishop collars are usually small. I'm going to be using 1.1 inch for this jacket. You can use 1 inch or 1.1 inch, but not more, okay? So I'm going to mark that on both sides of the paper so I can get a straight line, and I'm just going to connect the 2 points. So now this is what I have, and this is what we're going to modify now to get that bishop collar look. The first adjustment is going to be done here. You want to come up by 0.25 inch. Okay, you want to assume that this is the part that will be attached to the neck. Is the part that will be attached to the neck that you want to come up by 0.25 inch. Then you're going to mark 3 inches horizontally and connect the 2 points together. So this is done to make sure that the collar relaxes properly on the top you're going to be using it for. I like to replace mine, but ideally it's actually not replaced. That's why the end of a bishop collar is usually smaller than the other parts of the collar. So I'm going to also come up by 0.25 inch and connect this. Now the collar is almost ready. This is what I have now. I'm going to shade this part because we won't be needing it anymore. After shading off that part, the next thing I'm going to do is to curve the edge of the bishop collar. Most bishop collars, this edge is usually curved, okay? So you want to make sure that you curve this part, else it's just going to be looking a bit off after attaching it, except if there's a specific style you're going for, but the standard bishop collar always have a curved edge. So I've gone ahead to curve it and the bishop collar is complete. So I'm just going to shade the main parts of the bishop collar for you guys to really see the difference. The final thing to do is to add seam allowance all round, and you want to use 0.5 inch for this, not more than 0.5 inch. So I'm just using my tape rule and my pen to mark it all around, making sure that I'm getting a precise mark. When you're adding the seam allowance, don't forget that this shaded part isn't a part of the collar anymore. So this is what I have now as my bishop collar. I'm going to go ahead and cut this out and then cut it on the fabric. So if you want to use something like a peplum stay, you want to cut the collar exactly as it is without any seam allowance and then iron it to the fabric. Then go ahead and add seam allowance so that when you are done sewing, the stay isn't going to be too bulky inside the collar. So the peplum stay is also called hard stay. It's just like a very strong, stiff version of interfacing that some people use for making collar, but I prefer to use cloth stay. So if you're using cloth stay, you don't need to go through that process. Just do it exactly how I'm doing mine. So you can see how flexible my fabric is even after attaching interfacing. That's because I'm using cloth stay and not peplum stay. Peplum stay will make the fabric very stiff and hard. So now I'm cutting out the collar, and I cut this on fold because you're going to be needing two pieces for this. So please take note of that. The next thing to do is to stitch these two pieces together. You want to make sure that you're facing right sides together and sew right on the same allowance line, and you want to stop somewhere around here on both sides when you are sewing. That's because you're going to need to fold in the other part that will be attached to the neckline later, but don't worry, step by step. Just make sure that when you're sewing, you don't sew all the way to the end. You want to stop right before the half-an-inch seam allowance at the bottom part of the collar. I recommend marking the seam allowance right on the fabric, just to make sure that you do not make a mistake, because you want both sides of the collar to be exact. So I used my pen and my tape rule to mark out the seam allowance, and this is just a little BTS of me sewing the collar. You guys can see that I'm sewing right on that mark. Okay, so you want to make sure that you do that. Now I've gone ahead to sew it, and this is what I have. You guys can see the same line very clearly, and you can see that I did not stitch all the way to the end. This is me using the pattern paper to demonstrate. You can see where I stopped. I didn't get all the way to the end, and I didn't get into the seam allowance. Now the next thing I want to do is notch this and iron it out. Ironing is just as important as sewing, so please pay attention to the way I'm going to do this. First of all, you want to open up the collar like this and press it before turning to the right side and then pressing it down again. You can see how I did it. The reason why you have to spread it open first is to make sure that that seam line is flat. So now what you want to do is fold in that 1/2 inch seam allowance around the neckline area. Remember that I marked it. You guys can't see it properly, but I marked out the 1/2 inch seam allowance, and that's what I'm going to be folding in now. As you guys can see, the crease line is right on that 1/2 inch mark, which I made earlier. This is how you want your collar to look like. Now you want to fold in the other side. So this other side, when you are folding it, you just want to fold it right on top of the first folding. So this is just me making sure that everything is nice and flat. And now instead of folding the other 1/2 inch inside, I'm folding it on top of the first one I did. The reason why I am doing it like that is so that one side will be slightly longer than the other. That tiny detail is going to be very important when attaching the collar. So this is a close-up of what the collar looks like after ironing. So after folding that one on top, I just brought it inwards, and this is what it is looking like. You guys can see that the one underneath is just a little bit longer than the one on top. This is how you want your collar to look like. After ironing the collar, you want to go back and close up the edges or both sides. Remember that I left it open before. That's because I hadn't ironed the collar. But now that I'm done ironing, I'm going to close up the two sides, and this is what I have. I'm so sorry that the video is a bit cut off here. So what you want to do now is attach this to the top you're working with. So to attach it, you want to start with the back. Just assume that you are fixing a bias. That's the concept that's going to be used, a little bit of it, when attaching this collar. So you want to start with the back. First open up the collar, then that side that is slightly longer, you want to attach it to the back. You guys can see that I have pinned it. Attach it to the neckline, to the back of the top you are working with. In this case, I'm working with the jacket. and then you want to stitch right on that half-inch mark. For this side, you just want to be careful with the sewing so you don't sew out of the seam allowance mark. After that, then you will flip it over and top stitch. So this is why you want the back to be slightly longer than the front. So now when you flip the collar over to sew it, you are not going to have a shortage. So when you top stitch on the front, it's also going to hold on to the back of the collar because the back is already slightly longer. So by top stitching the front, you are sure that the back of the collar is going to be included in the sewing. So this is what I have now for the back. You guys can see how neat this is looking. What you just want to do now is flip this over. You can pin it if you want to, or iron it. It's advisable that you do that, but I didn't do that here. And you just want to top stitch right on the edge. Okay, this is one of the easiest ways to attach a collar to any outfit that you're working with. So I actually advise ironing this before sewing so that everything will come out looking neat and it will be easy for you to work with. Make sure you take your time doing this to make sure that there's no mistake and you're not stitching on an extra piece of fabric underneath. This is the final look of the jacket. You guys can see how relaxed this bishop collar is on the jacket. I hope this tutorial was helpful for you guys in making your own, and if you have any questions, leave them in the comment section. The tutorial on how to make this jacket is coming up. If it has not been uploaded yet, please subscribe and stay tuned. It will be uploaded this week. I usually upload 2 videos when I know that there's a part 1 or a part 2 to a tutorial. So this will either be the part 1 or the part 2, but it will be uploaded very soon. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please subscribe for more. Bye.